Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into a question that, well, it's been around for ages, really. Did God create man in his image? Or did man, create God in his?
A question that takes us through, well, a lot. History, philosophy, neuroscience even.
Exactly. And, well, lucky for us, we've got some excerpts from this article, dives right into this whole thing, ready to get into it.
Let's go.
Okay, so imagine, right? 70,000 years ago, early humans, they're trying to figure out this world, right? I mean, lightning strikes a tree, suddenly it's on fire. Where'd that come from?
I mean, back then, no science to explain it, right?
Yeah.
Easy to see how they'd think, oh, powerful unseen forces, that's got to be the gods.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Must have been, awe-inspiring, but also totally terrifying.
And then there's, what's it called? Pareidolia. We do it all the time. See faces in clouds, hear voices and random noises.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying, this whole seeing patterns thing, it kind of helped kickstart religion.
Absolutely. Imagine you're an early human, predators everywhere.
Yeah.
Rustling in the bushes, wind, or saber-toothed tiger. Better to assume it's something, right? Even if it's nothing. Survival tactic.
Better safe than sorry, I guess. Even if it means seeing gods everywhere.
Exactly. And over time, those forces, they become more than just explanations. They get wills, desires, influence on the world even.
Which brings us to, well, why did religion get so huge E, right? I mean, explaining a storm is one thing, but why whole systems, rituals, morals?
Social blue theory.
Mm-hmm.
Early groups with shared rituals, beliefs, they seem to have done better, survived longer.
How so?
Picture it. Group of early humans, burial ritual, right? Burying their dead with tools, supplies.
Reinforcing the afterlife idea, huh?
Yeah, but also bonding as a group, shared identity, purpose.
So not just explaining the unexplainable, but building community, feeling like you belong.
Exactly. Crucial back then. Hostile world, you needed that cooperation, trust, sacrifice for the group.
But also created an us and them thing, right? Didn't that lead to conflict, like tribalism?
Two sides to the coin. Brings people together within a group, but draws lines between them. And yeah, sadly, we see that throughout history, don't we?
It's kind of wild, right? Something that starts as, hey, why is it thundering, ends up shaping human behavior in huge ways, good and bad.
The power of ideas, right.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, why, even today, with all our science, do people still believe in something bigger?
I mean, you'd think science would replace religion by now. We know about lightning, earthquakes, even how the universe started.
But belief taps into something deeper than just explaining, the physical world. Some researchers even say there's this God-shaped hole in our brains.
God-shaped hole? What's that, literally?
Metaphor, of course. But studies show thinking about God lights up the same brain areas as thinking about, say, loved ones. Love, comfort, security. It's processed similarly.
So it's not just a supernatural being thing. It's a need for connection, belonging to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. But then it raises the question, doesn't it? Is this predisposition to believe, is that proof of God? Or just us, wired to need that belief?
It's like the chicken and egg of faith, huh? But here's another one. If we need to believe so much, why have the gods we believe in changed so much over time?
Good point. Which leads us to, well, what if gods evolved right alongside us?
Evolving gods. Okay, now that's new.
Think about it. Early hunter-gatherers, right? Their spirits were all about nature. Not all powerful gods, more like forces you appease or anger.
But as societies got bigger, more complex, their gods changed too.
Right. Social structures get hierarchical, so do the gods. Like ancient Egypt, all their gods ruling over different stuff. Divine hierarchy mirroring the earthly ones.
So our ancestors, basically, made gods in their image, reflecting their values, power structures.
Makes you think, doesn't it? The Greek gods, powerful, sure, but also jealous, angry, tricky, relatable, maybe even more believable because of it.
It's so different from the god of monotheistic religions, right?
Yeah.
All-powerful, all-knowing, morally perfect.
Huge shift. Reflects evolving morals, too. More complex ethics. Gods get more abstract, morally absolute.
So as we tried to be perfect, did our gods get more distant, less like us?
Interesting parallel, isn't it? Do we elevate them to aspire to, or to remind us how small we are compared to perfection?
It's like trying to perfect God made him further away somehow.
Which leads us to another twist. Belief systems that don't have any white gods.
No gods at all. How does that even work?
Buddhism, Confucianism, they're frameworks for life, but no divine intervention. Focus on enlightenment ethics, harmony.
So even without a God, we still want order, purpose, connection.
Seems like a core human thing. Reject the gods, but still search for meaning, something beyond just us.
Trading one kind of faith for another. But speaking of faith, what about science? Hasn't that made the whole God thing obsolete?
That's the big debate, right? Science definitely demystified a lot. We know lightning isn't Zeus, it's electrical discharges.
And earthquakes aren't angry spirits, it's tectonic plates shifting. So has science replaced needing religious explanations?
It's more complicated. Science explains the H how W, not necessarily the WHY. Why is the universe here? Why are we here? Science doesn't answer that.
So there's still room for faith, even in the super scientific world.
For lots of folks, yeah. They see science and faith as working together. Different sides of the same coin. Science is the mechanics, faith is the meaning, the purpose.
Head versus heart, almost.
You got it. No easy answer. Some folks are comfortable with both. Others say, no way, they clash.
Guess it's how each person makes sense of things, huh? But here's something. If Wibue invented gods, did we invent morality too? Does being good need God?
Now that's a question, and one that's bothered philosophers forever. Let's dig into that after a quick break.
So we're thinking maybe we didn't just invent gods, but like the whole morality thing too, right? Like, do you need God to be good?
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? I mean, if we just made up P right and wrong, does that make it less important? It's a common worry. But look, even without a God, giving out rules, humans evolved to cooperate, to care about each other, building communities where fairness matters. That's just us.
Makes sense. We're social creatures, right?
Yeah.
Can't all be fighting all the time if we want to, survive.
Exactly. And there's proof that people who don't believe in God, whole societies even, they can be ethical too. It's not like atheists have zero morals.
So it's not that religion invented being good, but maybe it made those instincts like stronger, louder.
Exactly. Think of it like religion gave those natural urges structure, rituals, holy books, moral codes. It's like suddenly those ideas are official, universal, unbreakable even.
Like a rule book from God saying, this is good, this is bad.
Good analogy. And
Yeah.
It's like God's the enforcer, making sure everyone sticks to the rules, even across different groups.
It's crazy how these ideas maybe we came up with can end up controlling how we act so much. Like we make the rules of the game, then the game shapes how we play.
That's a good way to think about it. And it brings us back to square one, doesn't it? Did God create man or man create God? Maybe it's a bit of both, back and forth,
Yeah, I can see that. But this whole God versus man thing, it didn't just end when science got big, did it? What does it all mean for us now?
$1 million question, right? Science explains so much, but we still want something more, something bigger than ourselves.
You mentioned that God-shaped hole earlier. What's that all about?
Not a real hole, obviously.
Yeah.
More like this need we have for meaning, feeling connected to something beyond just us. The article calls it God-shaped shadow.
God-shaped shadow. Okay, now I'm really curious.
Like even if we ditch the specific gods, the rituals, the rules, that yearning, that shadow of wanting to believe, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings, it's just part of who we are.
So it's not just about believing in like one God. It's about needing to figure out the big stuff. Why are we here? What happens when we die? What does it all mean?
Exactly. And that shadow, it can take lots of forms. Traditional religion, sure. But also spirituality, philosophy, art, even science in a way. It's all trying to fill that gap.
So even with all our logic and science, we haven't gotten rid of that need for something more.
Nope. In fact, it's morphing, changing. Look at secularism. More and more people, atheist, agnostic, spiritual but not religious.
Right. They might not follow a specific religion, but they still want meaning, purpose.
Exactly. It's about thinking for yourself, questioning things, not just blindly accepting.
Which, let's be honest, can be a good thing. Blind faith got us into some pretty messed up situations over the years.
Absolutely. But it's not just about ditching the old stuff. There's new kinds of spirituality popping up too. Mixing different traditions, focusing on personal growth, mindfulness.
Like making your own spiritual path, taking bits from here and there that resonate with you.
Right. It's still about meaning, purpose. But on your terms,
Right.
You get to define what that something greater is without like a strict rule book.
So we're still searching. Just the landscape's different now. More choices, more individual. But where does science fit in all this? Doesn't learning about the universe make the whole God thing less likely?
That's the age-old question, right?
Right.
What happens when science bumps up against faith? And yeah, discoveries like in cosmology, evolution, they definitely challenge the traditional God stories.
I can see that. You learn about the huge universe, how life evolved. Makes you wonder if some dude really did just snap his fingers and make it all happen.
It's humbling, for sure. We're just one little species on one little planet in this massive ancient universe. But for some folks, it actually makes their faith stronger. They see all that order, that complexity, as proof of a designer, a plan.
So it's not always science versus religion. It's about figuring out how they fit together.
Exactly. Lots of people find that science explains how W things work. Faith explains WHY. Like, why are we here? What's our purpose? That goes beyond what science can tell us.
It's like walking a tightrope between logic and belief. But for some folks, those two things just don't mix, right?
Right. Some say science is all about evidence, reason. It just doesn't work with faith, which is about believing without seeing. Totally different ways of understanding the world.
And then there's people who get that sense of awe and wonder from the science itself. Like that becomes their religion almost.
That's another interesting angle. The mysteries of the universe, how nature works, that becomes the source of their wonder, their inspiration.
So even within science, people find meaning in different ways. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. And I think that's a big lesson here. There's no single answer to the whole God question, whether we believe or not. It's complicated. Lots of layers.
It's a journey, not a destination. Right. We're constantly exploring, questioning, trying to figure out our place in this whole crazy universe.
You got it. And along the way, we bump into different ideas, different beliefs, different ways to understand things. But even while we're wrestling with these big questions, there's another layer we haven't really touched on yet. What are the gods we create, even the messed up ones? What do they tell us about ourselves?
Oh, now that's interesting. Like, if our gods are just reflections of us, our desires, our anxieties, what does that say about humanity?
Let's dive into that right after a quick break.
So we're saying the gods we dream up, they might actually be us. Just, bigger. Even the messed up parts.
It's a thought, isn't it? Like maybe by looking at those divine screw-ups, we learn something about ourselves, our own contradictions,
Like looking in a funhouse mirror, but instead of our bodies being wonky, it's our values, our fears, even our, dark side.
Perfect analogy. The old guys from myths, religions, powerful, wise, sure, but also jealous, angry, always fighting over dumb stuff.
Supersized humans, basically. All our good and bad traits just cranked up to 11.
Exactly. And it makes you think, did we create those flawed gods to, excuse our own flaws? Hey, even the gods mess up, so it's cool if I do too.
But doesn't that kind of mess with how we decide what's right and wrong? If we're using those messed up gods as the example, are we aiming too low?
Good question. Are we really using a human standard of ethics? Or are we still stuck on those old ideas of, divine punishment? God's going to smite you if you're bad.
So maybe how we picture God, it tells us how our morals are evolving. Are we getting more understanding, compassionate, or still stuck in that fear and judgment?
That's to think about, right? And that's the cool thing about all this. It's not just about where beliefs come from, but what we do with that knowledge. Challenge our own ideas, see things from different angles, become, better people.
It's not about the gods. It's about us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think this article, it really gets that. It's not giving you answers. It's making you ask better questions, wrestling with what they believe, and that human need to make sense of everything.
We've been on this wild ride through history, philosophy, even our own brains, and what we learned is there's no easy answers.
And that's okay. Searching for meaning, it's a process.
Yeah.
Always changing, always more to uncover.
Whether it's traditional religion, some new kind of spirituality, or just, a secular view, we're all trying to find that connection to something bigger. It's part of being human.
Couldn't agree more. It's that yearning, that desire to understand. It connects us all. Cultures, time periods, different beliefs, doesn't matter. Maybe God made us, maybe we made God. What really matters is the meaning we create, the connections we make, how we impact the world, each other.
That's a great way to put it. So, that big question we started with, God or man, maybe we'll never truly know. But at least we understand the question better now.
And maybe that's the point, right? Keep asking those big questions. Keep exploring. Keep challenging what you think you know, and grow your understanding of yourself, of the universe.
The journey is the destination, as they say.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with something to chew on. If the gods we create show us what we really want, what we're really afraid of, what do our beliefs today, religious or not, say about us? What stories are we telling ourselves about who we are, what's important, what we hope for the future?
Lots to think about as we head into, well, whatever this century throws at us. Figuring out our relationship with the divine, whether it's real or something we made up, it helps us understand ourselves, our place in this whole crazy human story.
Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.